Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show. And now, here's Jeff Crilley.
Welcome back to the Jeff Crilley Show. This is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, branding. And, we think about brands. We think about Apple and GM and McDonald's and Starbucks. But a person is a brand. My next guest is Valerie Sokolosky. She is with ValerieCompany.com. Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show.
Thank you. What a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. So we met recently at a talk, and we just instantly clicked, and we've become fast friends. I'm truly impressed with you, Valerie, because you really do understand a person's brand. Why don't we start with the basics? What is a person's brand? How do you define it?
It's very similar, actually, to thinking about a brand of a company or a brand of a product. A company has to have a brand that it's out there that always delivers authentically, consistently, the same message 24/7. And, of course, companies spend billions of dollars to make that brand out there and so forth. Well, people are very similar in terms of your brand is not only who you are at your very core, knowing your strengths and all of the wonderfulness that you bring to your success, but it's also, on top of that, how do you do what you do? And, by the way, make me care.
Right.
In other words, what is it that makes you stand out from someone else that kind of, sort of does what you do? And I couldn't help but think about today's segment. You might have people who are even in the same space.
Right.
But they're delivering what they do differently,
Yes.
And it comes from the person. So it's who you are, what's important to you, what are you communicating out in the marketplace, and, oh, by the way, do you know?
Right.
And then do you have a plan to bring more visibility to your credibility?
Perfect. Well, give me an example of a kind of a client that you work with, and what do you do for them?
One of the things that I'm most proud of right now is for 10 years, I've been working for one of the big four professional services firms, and these are partners. So that's the highest level. And you would think, well, partners are pretty branded, so why are they going through any kind of a branding process? Well, the firm felt strongly that, audit is audit is audit, and tax is tax is tax.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, right now we may be at the top of our game as a firm, but wouldn't it be great if every single partner was as strongly branded individually as the firm is worldwide? And so every year, twice a year, I work with partners all over the world to take them through the same process that I would anyone else.
Sometimes when I'm talking to people about branding, I'll make a point that let's suppose you had a popular realtor in a small town, and this person is known for integrity and character, and they've been with a certain real estate company, let's say Keller Williams, for 20 years, and then they move to Ebby.
Mm-hmm.
Their personal brand trumps the corporate brand, does it not?
Absolutely. I think that's why I'm busy.
Right.
Because so many people are going through that. Many people are in transition, or people may be wanting to go to the next level within the company. And yes, you take your personal brand with you everywhere you go. But, add to that this, Jeff, which is it's also about your presence. There's so much talk now about professional presence. And it's funny, I've been doing professional presence work for, I hate to say, over 2 decades. And it bubbles up. Professionalism in the workplace bubbles up about every 5 years because new people are coming into the company. And leaders say, well, I want to be sure that our talent development is in place and we've got succession planning and that everyone in the company is showing up, really, with as strong a presence as they can, too. So I finally realized that the two go together. I'd been doing presence for all these years. And when I heard about branding, I thought, well, wait a minute, that's what I've been doing. I have to find out about that. So I sought it out.
I love it. Let's talk about millennials because they get a lot of media attention, and I know that some of the things that you do is work with young people on their soft skills and their ability to take a meeting without texting. And are you running into problems with bosses saying, "Gosh, Valerie, come here and please do something with my 20-somethings"? Yeah,
because I really want to know with texting, it's just very, I want to text, but I also want to engage. But something you're saying maybe has sparked something. And so we're just thinking a million miles an hour. How do we need to just slow down and engage the way that will help us professionally?
Well, I will share this with you. Texting is great. I text too. And it used to be that we would email. And I remember when a manager said to me, I realize that now when I have millennials, if I want to talk to someone, I've got to text them because they'll be right on it, right? So one thing, Sarah, is to recognize when to text and when not. If you go into a meeting, and if I'm presenting and everyone has their head down, right, and you're texting, I don't know whether you're talking about me and what I'm presenting to you. I don't know if you're texting your boyfriend or your best buddy, and it's disconcerting. So there's a respect level. The answer to your question is, when is it time to text? And do it always when it's the respectful thing to do, not when it's maybe going to put someone in an awkward position or feel like you're talking about them.
That's really helpful, and that resonates with me because I do constantly, we're so plugged into our phone, but it is those soft skills that I think our generation's just really missing, or even the handwritten letter. When we get a handwritten letter, I'm like, oh, wow, I remember these.
And you know what I say? It's the soft skills that bring the hard dollars, isn't it?
I love it.
That's what companies will often call me and say, there's someone I want you to work with in our company that maybe is a little abrasive, great technical skills, really good at their job, brings a lot to the table, but maybe a little rough around the edges. It's just interesting. I used to own a charm school and modeling school.
Wow.
And so sometimes actually a leader will call and say, do you do that charm school stuff? Well, that's professional presence, right? So the two go together, all of what I was trying to say. If you've got your presence down pat and you show up and you look terrific, but you're not really clear on that brand and how you're perceived in the marketplace, you only have half of it. And on the other half, if you've got a strong brand and you understand your strengths and what brings you success, but you show up and you don't look so good, you don't act correctly, and so the two go together, and I think that's my differentiation.
Well, and I can tell you that Valerie walks her talk because she didn't just send my PR firm a thank you note. She baked some wonderful banana bread that was devoured by my team. And so I really think you've got it down, Valerie, the whole idea of that old-fashioned touch and that maybe this new generation needs to borrow some tips from their parents and grandparents.
She does, and she has a series of books. One, for instance, that I was really interested in. It's The Professional Dress or The Casual Dress. Can you give us that title?
Business Casual, clarify, please.
What is business casual?
That's the point, isn't it? So many companies just said, we're going to have business casual dress code. We were talking about that this morning, but they didn't differentiate it. So the book came about in a really interesting way. I was asked by the Federated Stores, Macy's and Bloomingdale's, that group, to come out when business casual first came into a topic. And they said, Valerie, we want to be branded as the business casual place to come, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to train our sales associates in how to help someone that comes in and says, well, now I have to dress business casual. What is that? So we did a video, and I did a book, and from that, I wrote my own. And here's the answer to it. If you think about the buttoned-up power suit, we're not doing that so much anymore, right? That's on one end of a spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum is your weekend wear. I don't care what you wear on the weekend. Do what you want. Right. Well, somewhere in the middle, the term business casual came about. So I just divided it into three things: high level, mid level, and base level. So high-level business casual is when it's closer to the power suit. It's mix and match, but it's always with a jacket. Mid-level is probably where companies sort of wanted to be but didn't explain it. And that's you don't have to have a jacket. You could have for men the trousers and a nice long sleeve shirt. I would say maybe even a polo shirt. You could have khakis, depending on the environment. I would say to those people, even so, have a jacket ready, just in case you want to up your game a little bit. Base level is just when you can wear jeans, probably not customer contact, but have them pressed, have them dark jeans, no holes in them, and so forth. So really high level, mid-level, base level.
That is so helpful.
Is that helpful?
Absolutely.
Worth the whole time, right?
Yes.
It really is. And when we talk about branding and personal branding, I tell my clients that the story that you're telling the world should be consistent across the different platforms. And an analogy I'll use sometimes is if you met a financial advisor at a cocktail party and he or she had a nice suit on and they looked like they knew what they were doing with their money, and you say, well, let's have a meeting later, and they say, sure. Then you go out and you see that they're getting into this 15-year-old beater of a car. All of a sudden they just lost the deal because you say, if they were good with money, they wouldn't be driving that car. Can you talk about how important it is to tell your story consistently across the different areas of your life?
Well, I'll say it in 3 C's: clarity, constancy, and consistency. Always be clear about your brand and show it in everything you do. It's kind of like, Jeff, if I had a chain link here, and I'm building a fence right out somewhere in the Texas Panhandle.
Sure.
And one link in that chain is weakened, like the car that you're talking about. What happens to the whole chain?
It falls apart.
It's weakened, right?
Right.
And so it is the little things that can make a difference. I just simply say, you know what? It's how you look, it's how you act, it's how you walk, it's how you talk, and most importantly, it's how you are in the inside. Be really who you are. Haven't we all met people that you want to go up and just kind of rub the makeup off because you know that that's not really who they are?
Right.
And here's, unfortunately, a statistic I read, and that is that 50% of people who work today are not coming to the workplace authentically. They just kind of put their hat on and become what they think the company thinks they oughta be.
Right.
And a really quick story about that is that I was working with a gentleman who was in a very professional company, and we did a 360, what's called a brand 360, and it identifies how other people perceive your brand. He sent it out to business people, and he sent it out to family and friends, anyone that knows him, because your brand is who you are everywhere.
Right.
Everyone in business had him pegged a certain way, and everyone outside of business made reference to his humor, his wit. He's funny. He tells good jokes. And so I said to this man, well, what are you? I mean, do you bring your humor to the doorstop and leave it, walk in, and then pick it back up?
Right.
And he said, absolutely. I said, really? He said, well, it wouldn't be appropriate in business. And we had to work through that there's a way to bring all of you to the workplace.
Right. Well, one of the big things that I know people are drawn to these days is people who are authentic. Do you, when you're working with an executive or trying to, let's suppose you have a baby boomer executive and they have a team of millennials and there's a generation gap, how do you get the baby boomer executive to relate to the millennials?
Be real. I have talked to so many millennials as I've worked with them, and first of all, I don't think they like to be grouped. Do you, Sarah? Do you like to just be grouped? All millennials are this way.
All millennials are lazy, is what I hear consistently.
They have, all these brands that they tag onto you. No, you're an individual, and so is the baby boomer. It goes back to what I said. It's about being respectful and appreciating each person's strengths. I don't care what age they are.
Absolutely.
That goes two ways.
Valerie, unfortunately, we're out of time for this segment. Give everybody your website and how they get a hold of you.
It's easy. Valerie and Company, all spelled out, .com.
That's outstanding. Well, thank you so much for being on the Jeff Crilley Show. When we come back, hospitals are being held hostage by scareware and ransomware. Why you should care is just ahead on the Jeff Crilley Show.
You're listening to The Jeff Crilley Show on Talk Radio 1190.